The Lesser Key of Solomon grew into one of the most studied works in the history of occult literature, because it brings together centuries of writing into one large text that shaped the way later generations understood spirits, power, and hidden knowledge. The book presents itself as a record linked to King Solomon, a ruler known for rulings and strong leadership. But scholars agree the text comes from a far later period shaped by medieval writers who borrowed older ideas and fused them into a single collection. The association with Solomon gave the book a sense of weight, because older stories described Solomon as a figure with wisdom and influence who commanded forces beyond ordinary human reach. Later writers built on these stories and wrote long descriptions of spirits linked to his name. As the text moved through different hands in Europe, it grew in size through copied notes, rewritten passages, added lists, and revised descriptions that changed based on each scribe's beliefs. By the time the text reached the public in its most complete form, it no longer reflected one era, but instead carried pieces from many centuries, stitched together into a book that became a reference point for discussions about spirits among scholars, collectors, and storytellers. Its value now lies in how it shows the evolution of ideas across time, not in any single claim written inside it. The first large portion of the book focuses on the 72 spirits described as kings, dukes, earls, marquises, and knights, each one tied to a set of symbols, behaviors, abilities, and challenges. These ranks reflect medieval European viewpoints rather than the world of the ancient Near East, showing how strongly the text absorbed social structures from the period of its creation. Each spirit receives a detailed description that includes appearance, personality traits, historical associations, and specific domains of influence. These entries serve as a form of cataloging, similar to bestiaries from the same era, which used detailed descriptions to express fears, moral lessons, or warnings through symbolic creatures. The 72 spirits often represent human struggles such as temptation, pride, confusion, anger, desire for influence, or pursuit of hidden knowledge. Medieval readers used this catalog to understand internal tension by attaching those struggles to named figures. This gave structure to complicated emotions and fears. Modern scholars treat the section as a map of medieval psychology expressed through mythic language, reflecting how earlier societies explained stress and conflict long before the language of modern psychology existed. The next section introduces a long list of angels connected to moral order, discipline, and protection. Each angel is paired with one of the 72 spirits as a counterforce, which shows how the writers believed every harmful influence needed a balancing presence. These angels act as symbolic figures in the text, representing the ideals of restraint, judgment, and authority that guided medieval social life. This pairing reflects a worldview shaped by duality, where every negative force came with an opposing positive influence. It also shows how scribes tried to merge older Hebrew traditions with medieval Christian angelology. Many names draw from earlier sources, yet the structure of the section reflects later attempts to order the spiritual world like a precise hierarchy. This part of the book serves as evidence that early compilers did not see spirits only as sources of harm. They understood them as pieces of a larger system, where moral forces and harmful forces existed side by side. It also shows how European writers drew from many traditions at once, blending them into a single document through centuries of copying. Another section describes spirits connected to knowledge, visions, and symbolic insight, which reveals how earlier cultures viewed inspiration and memory. These spirits are seen not as rulers or warriors, but as figures tied to communication, dreams, symbols, and interpretation. Medieval writers believed strange dreams, sudden creative ideas, and emotional surges came from forces outside the human mind, so these entries reflect attempts to explain those experiences with structured lists. Scholars today view these parts as valuable historical documents because they show how people once understood imagination. The spirits in this section represent the pull of curiosity, the fear of the unknown, and the struggle to understand confusing events. Each description acts like a coded message about the concerns of the era, such as anxiety about knowledge spreading too quickly or interest in secrets kept by scholars and rulers. The text also includes a section about spirits linked to sound, performance, and illusions. Earlier cultures saw music as a powerful tool capable of shaping mood and belief, so they created figures associated with rhythm, melody, and influence through sound. These descriptions reflect a time when people thought artistic talent came from outside the human mind instead of inside it. This part of the book interests historians because it connects supernatural ideas with early forms of art theory. It also helps researchers trace how people explained complex skills before they understood training, practice, or natural talent. The presence of these figures shows how deeply older societies connected creativity with unseen forces. They believed music held the power to comfort, disturb, or direct attention, and they interpreted this effect through stories about spirits. The final part of the text collects notes added by scribes who copied the book across generations. These notes sometimes contradict each other. Some writers warn readers to treat the descriptions with caution. Others treat the entries as historical or symbolic knowledge. Some add short paragraphs explaining how the lists changed over time. These layers reveal how the text evolved gradually rather than being created in a single moment. The notes also show how personal beliefs influenced the copies. Scribes added their own fears, cultural rules, and assumptions, turning the book into a conversation across centuries rather than a single unified work. This section gives the Lesser Key its depth because it preserves not only the main text, but also the reactions of those who copied it. The book gained its modern title, The Lesser Key, when later scholars wanted to distinguish it from another work linked to Solomon known as the Greater Key. The Greater Key focuses on symbolic imagery and philosophical lessons, while the Lesser Key focuses on structured descriptions of spirits. Both books shaped European views of the unseen world for centuries, influencing poets, playwrights, and early scientists who studied ancient manuscripts. Stories inspired by the 72 spirits appeared in theater, poetry, and early esoteric societies. The book's impact spread beyond academic circles and shaped popular imagination long before modern entertainment existed. It became a reference point for discussions about power, fear, and knowledge. Modern researchers study the Lesser Key through a historical lens. They compare its entries to older Babylonian, Greek, Hebrew, and medieval European writings. They examine the language to identify when certain parts were written. They trace how names changed from draft to draft. This approach helps them understand how ideas moved across regions and how different cultures interpreted unseen forces. The text serves as a map of cultural exchange, revealing how people shaped one another's beliefs through stories. It also shows how earlier societies explained emotional struggles with symbolic figures. Modern readers look at these descriptions and see reflections of isolation, ambition, anxiety, or desire for authority. The Lesser Key remains important not because of supernatural claims, but because it preserves the way people try to understand themselves. Older cultures created figures for every fear and every strength. They shaped stories into structured lists to gain control over their thoughts. They used imagination to explain stress and conflict. The book carries these ideas through time and keeps them intact for study. The 72 spirits represent temptation, ambition, confusion, creativity, anger, longing for leadership, and desire for knowledge. The angels represent moral purpose, structure, restraint, and the need for stability. The text captures centuries of attempts to explain human choices and emotions through symbolic figures.